Hi, Todd Dunn here on the coast of Maine on February 3rd, 2018 at about 11:30 a.m. It's currently 12 degrees outside, which is a little nippy. So, I'm inside today. I've been thinking about some things that are a little different for my channel, and I'm going to start talking a little bit about finances. Not because I'm an expert, but because we all have to deal with money at one level or another. Nowadays, we tend not to deal so much with cash, but with debit cards, credit cards, direct deposits, automatic payment of bills. And a consequence of this is you can become a little bit detached from your finances, particularly if you live under your means. And I'm going to talk now primarily to older people who maybe are retired and receiving Social Security. So what happens? Your Social Security check is direct deposited. Your pension check, your 401k withdrawal, is direct deposited. You maybe have a little money in savings. The interest is direct deposited. Your bills are paid directly out of your checking account automatically every month. The light bill, the phone bill, your mortgage, what have you. It all goes out automatically and you don't really see it anymore. You pay your grocery store bill with a debit card. So you may actually go for quite a long time without handling much cash. In fact, I know some people who don't handle any cash. And even if they do handle cash, they go to the bank machine and get a little cash out using their debit card, or they go to the grocery store and get $10 cash back just so they'll have enough if they want to buy a cup of coffee or something. So, what happens? You become detached from your day-to-day financial transactions. Particularly if you have electronic bank statements. They don't come in the mail anymore. You just get an email notice that your bank statement's available and you can go online and look at it if you want to. So it's pretty easy under these circumstances to lose track of your day-to-day finances and even longer-term state of your bank account. What I'm going to call your accumulator account. It's probably a checking account. Probably earns a little bit of interest, maybe not, but somewhere between 0 and maybe 0.2% interest. Well, with money coming in and you living below your means, money is going to accumulate in that account. So maybe after a while, you haven't looked at it for a year, 2 years, you finally go online and you look at your bank statement. And wow! You have $100,000 that's just kind of accumulated there while you weren't looking. It's getting 0.1% interest. That $100,000 is earning you $100 a year. That's a pretty pathetic income on $100,000. So, what do you do with that $100,000 you just found in your bank account last week? Well, you have a number of options. And I'm going to talk about a few of them today. But they come down to sort of 3 or 4 things. You could take the $100,000 and you could go on a spending spree. You could buy a new car, you could buy a boat, you could buy an RV. You could spend the money. It's, after all, money that is surplus to your normal lifestyle. But if you're like me, spending large chunks of money is not easy. I don't do it unless I've really thought about it for a long time. So you're probably going to want to invest that money in some way. Well, there are a number of options. You could move it to your money market account. That keeps it FDIC insured, so it's safe, and it'll give you a higher return. Right now, in February 2018, you can get around 1% on $100,000 in a money market account. So you go from $100 a year return to $1,000 a year return. That's an extra $1,000 that you can spend, or if you don't change your lifestyle, will just continue accumulating in your account and will cause this problem to happen again. Or you could put it in a CD. CD rates right now, if you look around, are around 2% for a 1-year CD, going up to maybe 2.5% for a 5-year CD. Now, I wouldn't myself, right at this point in time, recommend a long-term CD because interest rates are going up. So if you lock your money into a 5-year CD and next year 1-year CDs are paying more than your 5-year CD, you're going to kind of kick yourself. So if you put it in a CD at right now in a climate of rising interest rates, probably a 1-year CD is a good idea, and you're going to get 2% interest, which on your $100,000 is $2,000, which is 20 times what you were getting when the money was just sitting in your checking account. So that's a good option. And the money is safe because it's FDIC insured. Another artifact of putting the money in a CD, a 1-year CD, is it kicks the decision about what to do with the money in the long term down the road another year. So what else? What are some of the other options? Well, you could buy a treasury bill. Right now, treasury bills are yielding about 1.5% for a 3 or 6 month bill, to about 1.9% for 1 year, and about 2.8% for 10 years. Treasury bills are safe, but in a rising interest rate climate, you can expect that the yields on treasuries are going to go up, so a longer term treasury might not be such a good idea, because although you could sell it on the secondary market, it's going to be difficult to sell a 2.8% 10-year treasury in a market where 10-year treasuries are yielding 5%. So you could find yourself possibly losing some of your principal in order to get rid of it if you needed to, or being stuck in an investment that 2 or 3 years from now is yielding a subpar rate of interest. One benefit, though, of going into a treasury bill, although it's federally taxable as regular income, it's exempt from state and local taxes. So if you live in a state with a high income tax, you won't be taxed on the return of your treasury bill. So what's the final option? Well, the final option is the stock market. There are 2 ways of playing the stock market. One, you can go in and actively trade, but if you are the sort of person who has somehow allowed $100,000 to pile up in your checking account, you're probably not going to do that, because that would mean watching the market every day and buying and selling stocks to maximize your gains. And that maybe isn't a level of attention you want to give to your money. Alternatively, you could buy blue chip stocks, good, solid stocks with a long track record that pay dividends. And you could look at the return on the stock, at least initially, as simply the dividend yield. It's not at all difficult to find stocks that yield somewhere between 2% and as high as 5.5% in dividends. And these stocks are relatively safe in terms of having long records, many years, 10, 20, 30 years, or sometimes more, of continuous payment of dividends with consistent increases in the dividends. So you could generate a nice additional income stream by buying a blue chip stock that has a nice dividend yield. Dividends also have another advantage depending on your income. If you're a couple, you file a joint tax return, and your income is less than $100,000 a year, those dividends are going to be taxed at 0% by the federal government. You may still have to pay state or local tax on them, but you won't be paying any federal tax. If you're single, as long as your income is below $50,000, your dividends are going to be taxed at 0%, which is a pretty nice tax rate. Can't get better than that. So dividends and long-term capital gains, which I'll get to in a second, have the advantage of being tax-free if your income is below $50,000 for a single person and about $100,000 for a couple. So that is a nice benefit because interest on a CD, a money market account, or a treasury bill or bond is fully taxable as regular income by the federal government. So you could end up paying 20% or more of your interest income in taxes, which makes a 3% dividend yield look more like a 3.5% CD or treasury bill yield. Okay, what about long-term capital gains? Well, the problem with the stock market is that the money you put into it, the principal that you put in to buy a stock, that value can go up and down. And it will go up and down on a daily basis, or if you follow it closely, on a minute-to-minute basis. If this is something that you can't deal with, then the stock market is a really bad choice for you. If you're going to be stressed by day-to-day fluctuations in the value of your stock, then you don't want to get into the stock market. However, if in my scenario you're the kind of person who has let $100,000 accumulate in your checking account, you're probably not going to look at it very closely. And if you're able to put that $100,000 into blue chip stocks that pay dividends and just forget about it, not pay attention to the day-to-day, week-to-week fluctuations in the stock market, and not panic if the stock market drops dramatically, just keep getting your dividends, you'll be fine. And at some point you may decide to sell the stock, and if you're patient you can wait until the stock is up and take a nice long-term capital gain, which, as I said, will have the same tax treatment as your dividends. So if your income is under $100,000, including that capital gain as a couple, you're not going to pay any tax on it, which is very nice. And furthermore, for retired people, some people view leaving a nest egg as an inheritance for their children and grandchildren to be very important. And under current tax laws, if you die and leave that stock to your children, the base level for capital gains calculations will step up to the value of the stock on the day that you died. So that $100,000 that you put in 20 years ago, which is now worth $500,000, will not generate a capital gain for your heirs. It'll be revalued for capital gains purposes at $500,000. Anyway, I hope my ruminations on this topic have been of interest to you. If you liked it, give me the old thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Over the next while, I'm going to be doing a series of videos on the topic of finances. Nothing, overly deep, just kind of day-to-day financial situations that you might find yourself in. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.